Meh. Hey everybody, in KNES 310, uh, I'm trying to, I'm recording the lecture directly to my laptop instead of live streaming on YouTube, because the last one, it kind of felt grainy. It didn't seem like the bourgeois Wi-Fi could keep up. So I'm going to try it this way and just upload it directly, and maybe the quality's better. Let me know. So this little video is meant to, going into the weekend, making sure that we're all on the same place in terms of where you need to be for your understanding going into Monday. And this about summarizes it up. This little equation summarizes where you need to be going into Monday. Okay. A, agonist. You need to be very familiar with what an agonist is. Muscles that are working above resting tone, doing a job. The muscle group that's doing a job. Here's an example. So if it took me a while to get this photo of me with the lighting, but I finally got it. How do you know who you are calling metaphorically to do a job? Which muscles are being recruited above resting tone to influence motion? For those of you that are athletic trainers, maybe, or people in working clinics, you may say, well, there's co-contraction. Yeah, a lot of times co-contraction is for stability. Here we're talking specifically mobility. What is responsible for motion, whether it's causing motion, preventing motion, or allowing motion to speed up or slow down? And the way you determine agonist is what is external forces trying to do to me, or that guy in this case. And it's a simple thought experiment. If he turned off all the muscles, if he turned off everything, what would happen? That's the easiest way to see what the external forces are trying to do. If no muscles were doing any jobs, what would happen? And if nothing would happen, that's also an answer, because if you're in a position where, if I laid my arm down on the desk and I said, if I turn off all the muscles in my elbow, what would happen? If the answer was nothing, that life is great, because then I need extensors to extend me and flexors to flex me. But in this case, nothing is not an answer, right? The external force, in this case gravity, pulling on the mass of his arm plus the mass of the dumbbell, is trying to extend his elbow. And this is an exercise. And on the test, I mentioned it in the lectures, every exercise, if I say the word exercise in a question, it's going to be inferred to be slow and controlled. That doesn't mean that you can't do something fast. It just means on the test, I'm going to tell you when you're going fast, or there's going to be a functional task to infer why you need to go fast. Meaning, you do as many jumping jacks as possible in 10 seconds. Doesn't that infer that you're trying to go fast? Okay. But anytime I say exercise, that infers slow and controlled, and that way there's no confusion on speed. So if they're doing an exercise with, especially with a dumbbell, they don't want to do it fast. You could hurt yourself, you could pull a muscle, you could hurt your elbow, you could hyperextend your elbow. Slow and controlled. So if that's the case, if the weight wants to extend my elbow, the last muscle groups I need to call to do a job to influence motion are my extensors. Because if gravity and my extensors are both trying to extend me, I throw my arm down to the ground, right? I don't need my extensors, I need my flexors. I need the muscles that are pulling in the opposite direction of extension to do a job. Now, the type of job they do is proven by your joint motion that you observe. In other words, if my elbow flexors, which I determined I need to do a job in this picture, if my elbow flexors are working and I observe zero flexion, no motion, then the contraction is inferred to be isometric. They're doing a job, no motion, they are preventing motion in essence through isometric work. How simple is that? Well, what if I start observe? What, there's really only two options. I'm either going to observe no motion while the muscles are doing a job. I'm going to observe flexion while the flexors are doing a job, or I'm going to observe extension. So it's really kind of matching if you think about it. Elbow flexors are working because gravity's trying to extend me. What if I observe flexion? Well, the only way the flexors, muscles that pull in the direction of flexion, can be responsible for flexion in the presence of something trying to extend you is through concentric contraction, concentric work. Super duper easy. Flexors do flexion through concentrics. That's another way to read. Guys, every equation that you've ever had reads as a sentence. F is equal to ma, that famous Newton equation. Unbalanced forces are directly proportional to object's mass times that object's acceleration. It's a sentence. It reads as a sentence. Agonistic muscle groups that pull in certain directions of motion are responsible for certain motions through certain contractions. What if I observe extension? Well, the only way the flexors in this example can be responsible for extension, whether that's allowing it to speed up, letting it keep going at the same speed, or making it slow down, it's still extension. Flexors are responsible for extension through eccentric contraction, eccentric work. By Monday, you have to have this down, because on Monday, I'm going to get into not exceptions to the rule. There is no exceptions to the rule. There are different scenarios where the muscles and gravity or external forces need to work in the same direction. It's rare, but sometimes we just have to swat that mosquito that's on our leg. And if I let my muscles that are pulling up do it, my arm's going to go too slow to get that job done. So sometimes we do use muscles in the same direction as external forces. But as your hand swings fast to kill that mosquito, it should make sense. It's got to move pretty fast. Okay, so we're going to talk about exceptions, but the concepts are still the same. It's just exceptions to the norm, moving faster than gravity, or moving things in when there's no external forces. When there's no external forces, then it's muscles are going to speed you up and muscles are going to slow you down. And we'll talk about that on Monday. So to avoid that confusing you, if you're trying to learn this with that, it could be a little confusing. So get this down. This is how your body moves a majority of the time. How often do you move joints fast? Not often. Usain Bolt, who is a professional sprinter, sprints very rarely in terms of his activities of daily living. Think about that for a living. That's his job, is to move fast. But yet, as a percentage of his overall day, he's moving like a sloth. Much greater percentage of his day that he's moving fast. So these are exceptions. That's why we're going to talk about the norm first, get that down, and then talk about exceptions. All right, guys, as always, hit me up if you have any questions, and I hope y'all have a good weekend.